Hello and welcome to a special episode, Jamcon special of SCP Cafe. I'm your host, Blue Soul, SCP Wiki moderator, chat operator, subreddit moderator, author, loving husband, dog petter, man of the hour, and altogether perseverant guy. So we have 7 skips that we're going to go over for Jamcon 2. And a little refresher, if you didn't really follow Jamcon, the premise is that authors were given 3 topics and 24 hours to plan and write their piece, and had another 24 hours after that to submit the work. And they repeated this 3 times and came up with 3 different winners. So we are going to look at all of the winners and runners-up for days 1, 2, and 3, and we will start at day 1 with the tied runners-up. The theme for day 1 was simply titled Shaggy Dog, and that can mean a couple of things. The obvious one is that it could be a story about shaggy dogs, and there were ones about that. It could be a shaggy dog story, which is usually a story that rambles for a while and ends either with no punchline or an anticlimax. And there were some of those as well. Both sides were represented, and in fact, they were blended, and not to be outdone, there were Shaggy Dog stories about the movie The Shaggy Dog featuring Tim Allen, and so on and so forth. So we will take a look first at what is now the lower scoring of the runners-up. At the time they were tied, but now there is a bigger delineation between the two. We're going to get started with SCP-4844, titled Last Man Standing by Ty Gently, and I may have buried the lead here because the image is one of Tim Allen. It is captioned SCP-4844, photographed in 2012, 7 years after its ascension. So we have an object class of Keter, and procedures that indicate that we have no effective means of containing the skip. We are researching our options and trying to find ways to better contain the skip. And that's pretty much as far as it's gone. It does point out that both the skip's home in Los Angeles and its ziggurat beneath the Caspian Sea are to be surveilled to monitor SCP-4844's activity. So the story that we're basically running with in the description is that Tim Allen is a reality bender, and a very strong one at that, more so than any other entity known in the Northern Hemisphere. Can fly, spontaneously manifest and demanifest, manipulate objects and substances, as well as stand-up comedy. We don't know the origins of these abilities, but we believe them to be associated with obscure and forbidden acting techniques utilized throughout the filming of 2006's The Shaggy Dog. That is not the only point where we intersect with the theme, because the rest of this does kind of go on and on this ziggurat of solid obsidian we found in the Caspian Sea. This contains all sorts of artifacts and sculptures of various religious-esque overtures, and you've also got big murals like Tim Allen standing atop of an M1 Abrams tank, and a scale model of the USA with Florida absent and the Midwest covered by an engraving of Tim the Toolman Taylor smiling and wielding a claw hammer. And we have an addendum after this that indicates that we found a granite tablet in the ruins of the Sumerian city-state of Ur. This discovery drew our attention when the tablet was reported to depict not modern-day characters, despite being roughly 3,000 years old. And it depicts Tim Allen flanked by as Tim the Toolman Taylor, flanked by Buzz Lightyear and Santa Claus. He is shown to be locked in mortal combat with American stand-up comedian Jerry Seinfeld atop an unknown volcano. Jerry Seinfeld is not known to possess anomalous abilities to the extent implied by this tablet, and we close this with the sentence, "No actions are to be made to empower Jerry Seinfeld at this time." So that's more or less the piece. One thing that I've found interesting going into this recap show is that I have sort of struggled to have my usual enthusiasm about doing these shows. This is, it's not that this is a bad piece, but like a number of these pieces from Jamcon, I really feel nothing at all. They're okay, but they don't do anything to evoke more than like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. It's a Shaggy Dog story. It involves the guy that was in the movie, the Shaggy Dog, but maybe we've been spoiled so much, and my expectations are perhaps need to be adjusted for something like Jamcon, but the setting of that I was not going to pick any of these works, I was going to let the community make these picks for me, leaves me with things that I wouldn't necessarily have picked on my own. So for this is a no vote. I largely because I really feel nothing at all about it. Aside from it does meet the criteria. It's Shaggy Dog story, and that's fine. The tone is all just fine, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, and so on. But from an actual narrative, universe building, really anything to make me want it to actually stay on the wiki, I feel none of that. So, but it is, for what it is and how it was constructed, it's fine. So the net result for me is a no vote. Moving on, SCP-4464, titled Dogs Could Be Bigger, and this was written by Mortos. This is now the clear runner-up in the day one entries. I guess they were tied, but now it's ahead of the previous entry by a little margin. I think about 8 votes right now. We have and Mortos. I mentioned this in the week 13 show. The anomaly class of Euclid as opposed to object class. I'm not going to touch that anymore. I said all that I am really going to say on the subject last Friday. We have an image of a shaggy dog, as you might suspect, and the caption reads, "A non-anomalous example of the Leonberger breed supplied for visual reference." And what we have are procedures that indicate that spaceflight experiments involving canines are to be terminated by Foundation assets through any means necessary, and all satellite photos of the far side of the moon are to be filtered for potential evidence of the -1, and photos of the inner solar system are to be similarly filtered for evidence of -2. Interesting. So we have a description that indicates that the skip is an anomaly affecting all juvenile canines not significantly affected by Earth's gravity. And this anomaly has 2 primary effects. The first effect is that affected canines will not require food, water, or oxygen and will no longer produce waste. The second effect is that the growth rate of these dogs will increase dramatically, and the exact scale is difficult to measure, but we believe it to be several orders of magnitude beyond normal growth. And to drive this point home, we introduce -1 and -2. -1 is a male Leonberger currently located on the far side of the moon, standing approximately 1.1 kilometers tall. It spends the majority of its time sleeping, and then it will occasionally throw and then chase a large rock, presumably for fun, and about once a month it will perform motions indicating it is howling, but due to the lack of atmosphere, there is no sound. The -2 is a female Leonberger currently located in the approximate orbit of the asteroid belt, and it is approximately 55 kilometers tall and currently is curled in a sleeping position. We have not detected any movement since we began observation, and orbiting this dog are 4 puppies, each measuring approximately 50 meters tall, and these are collectively designated -3. No individual movement has been observed in these objects either, and investigations into who originally sent -1 and -2 into space are currently in progress. End article. That's the whole thing. So this is an interesting little picture that's been painted. It you could take this in a number of different ways, and I don't think you would be wrong in any of them. It is I get why it's this way for Jamcon. There is no time to really flesh out anything beyond this. I wish there was more to this. We've got our winners. I'd like Mortos to go in and elaborate on this a little bit more, because this has the potential to be something really beautiful and sad. And right now, it is incomplete to a point that it doesn't fully get there. But on the premise of having very high potential and being well written for as far as it goes, this is still a +1 from me. But I do want this to keep going. It's it already is. I'm sorry, I said it won. It was the runner-up. But it the votes are tallied. I would like more work to be done on this to really make it shine. I think it's close, but I think it needs more. But +1, just the same. Now, moving on to our winner for day 1, SCP-4290, titled The Child Hungers, and this was written by 9volt, who I hadn't seen anything from in a few weeks, so this was a pleasant surprise to see this one. We have an object class of Keter and an image that is captioned Shanghai Lake in China, and it appears to be the remnants of what was once a much larger lake, very blue but surrounded by a big bowl that would indicate this is about all that's left of the lake. Containment procedures that indicate that all available military assets are at the site of the skip's sealing and are prepared to use any means necessary to neutralize the anomaly. Alpha 1, Red Right Hand, Tau 5, Samsara, Nu 7, Hammer Down, are all on site and have been outfitted with experimental paratech weaponry and are situated within the containment perimeter. We have grids of nuclear mines that have been planted in the vicinity of the sealing site, prepared to detonate if Foundation assets are destroyed. We also have an orbital strike system that has been enabled in the event of a breach past the containment perimeter. Emergency shelters for civilians and selected personnel are being prepared in the event that all of these measures fail. The probability of such failure is currently undetermined. So we have set the stakes almost immediately, almost as high as they can go. What we have for the description is that the skip is a Class I eschatological, you wouldn't believe how many takes that just took, entity that was thaumaturgically sealed approximately 10,000 years in the past, and the seal is expected to break in the next 7 days. The site of the sealing, which is SCP-4290-Lock, is in this lake at a depth 32.8 meters from the surface, blah, blah, blah. 8 beryllium bronze totems resembling armored humans, engraved with networks of banishing runes, arranged in the 0.78-fold fractal carved into the lake bed, and bursts of red light are periodically released from the center, and these have intensified in brightness over the last month. We have recovered some information via various record sources. We have an excerpt that was translated, and it has various terrifying, it's coming. The child rose its 10 mouths to the heavens, stretched wide 20 arms, and ripped the umbilical cord from the sack on its head. That gives you kind of an idea of what we're dealing with here. We have an addendum of repair attempts. So this is set in the near future, in the year 2022. TVs in the province that this lake is situated in were disrupted and displayed images of an entity matching the skip rising over a melting cityscape with an androgynous voice telling viewers to repair the child's locks. And this is repeated in frequency. The voice has shifted lately to say, "There's little time left, repair." And this led us to the discovery of the site. And the efforts that we began trying to figure out what we could do. We scour the Wanderer's library. We look at ruins of ancient civilizations, and we found that this is not the first time the seal has needed mending. There are numerous other civilizations in the past that strengthened the seal, engraved new runes, and so on and so forth, including the Deovites. And we have the Department of Occult Containment setting up to create new rites and engravings. We have a submersible containing the ritual setup, and we have a footnote here that says this requires 3 human cadavers and the live heart of an angel. So we've got that. Don't question. Just go along with it. We have remotely operated underwater vehicles to deliver this apparatus. We get halfway through the performing of this ritual. We have red light bursting through and accompanied with high levels of gamma radiation and heat, and this caused the submersible to accidentally damage existing runes, and the interruption of the ritual led to only 2 cadavers and half of the heart to vanish. We intended for all of them to vanish. So the TV broadcasts now say the sacrifice did not reach the 10 maws. Brace. So we have a second addendum that says a defection incident that involved numerous personnel stationed at this length acting against Foundation orders and going rogue and leaving the area, and leaving very ominous messages saying, we can't stop this, no civilization before us wanted to fight it, none of them, given the theme, there's not much left in this work, what's coming. So we tried once more to seal the update, to seal the site. We have an update that says we have seismometers detecting high energy seismic pulses radiating from directly under the site, consistent with models on the effects of dimensional distortion, and red light now encompasses the entire site. The totems are observed to be crumbling. Personnel are advised to wait and prepare. And then we have a line below that says, file revised, displaying new additions. The third addendum, this should technically, I guess, be the fourth addendum, because we had 1, 2, 3, and then we have 3 again. So that seems like an oversight. So the update reads that the totems comprising the lock site disintegrated. We sent our military assets in, and about 10 minutes later, a 40-meter long emaciated humanoid organism matching descriptions of the skip phased out of the ground and onto the seabed. Orders were sent to fire only once we observed activity. We waited 2 hours, nothing happened. We wait another hour, we send our submersible, and we find dozens of human corpses and hearts used in the repair rituals rested on the entity's mouths, none having been consumed. No thermic radiation, psi-wave emissions, or any other sign of activity were registered. All life functions in the skip had ceased. We performed an in-site autopsy, and based on these, we estimate the entity died approximately 9,000 years ago due to malnutrition, and the skip has been reclassified to neutralized. End article. So this is the sort of classic Shaggy Dog story. We raised the stakes, set the stage, and then the anticlimax. So this is an excellent example of it. And not only is it an excellent example of the format, it works well in the SCP universe. And for that, I think this is a very worthy winner. And the fan base seems to agree. This is at plus 175, and well earned, very well earned. Everything in this really nails the tone. I am very, very happy with this piece, and it is a very easy +1 from me. The topic for day 2 is pulp fiction. You could take that any number of ways. So moving on to day 2, SCP-4494, titled The Spectre Fights for Justice, also written by Mortos. So they had 2 entries make it into the top 2 out of the 3 days of Jamcon, which is pretty damn impressive. This is the runner-up. We have almost immediately something to let you know that something is afoot with this article, because it has a little logo and in front of the logo, we have SCP-4494 written in sort of a fancy script text. And below that, it says the following file is affected by a Class 1 info hazard, and the normal presentation of this document has been altered through anomalous means. This is considered normal and is not cause for alarm. So under item number, we have SCP-4494, and that is, again, written in that fancy script, which I think, it's interesting. It catches you right away. You can tell that there's going to be something a little different going on with this piece. So we have an anomaly class, and I'm not touching that, of Archon, and a footnote that reads, Archon class anomalies are anomalies that should not be contained due to the damage that would be caused by doing so. And procedures that indicate direct witnesses to 4494 related activity are to be amnesticized as necessary, and no actions are to be taken against 4494 by Foundation personnel at this time. Every time it says SCP-4494, it is in this fancy script, and it is consistent in that until one little time, which I will point out towards the end. The description indicates that the skip is the physical embodiment of the concept of fighting crime, and it typically manifests at night during law enforcement actions in which the relevant criminal element has an advantage in order to render aid. So it's this mysterious stranger, and that is sort of what the image puts out there. It's all black. You can see, a man with a, wide-brimmed cowboy hat and looks like a handlebar mustache and a pair of leather gloves and a big swirling cape, behind him. And the skip apparently refers to itself as the Spectre, and the Spectre is in this same fancy script. And once it has done its job and aided the relevant party, it demanifests, and but will occasionally hold a conversation with people before demanifesting. The skip possesses a number of minor physical anomalies. It absorbs a significant portion of light, causing it to appear almost entirely black, and is able to alter the length of its cloak at will, which it uses entirely for dramatic flourish. And additionally, it possesses minor infohazardous properties. When referred to in text, the reference will always appear in a stylistic and dramatic font, and speakers invariably use a dramatic whisper when referring to 4494 verbally. Oh, I haven't been doing that, I'm sorry. So should the skip, however, be prevented from aiding the group that triggered its manifestation, the entire concept of attempting to prevent illegal activity begins to break down. And this occurs in an area expanding around the skip, the size of which increases at a rate of approximately 100 kilometers per hour. So that is no joke. That's a huge amount of ground to have a very serious effect manifest. We have figured out that if we do let the Spectre assist down the road in helping us out, that the effect is reversed. And but we have a little timeline of an incident where we did sort of contain him and wanted to see what happened. And within 10 minutes, violent incidents and traffic accidents skyrocket as the local populace no longer possesses any concept of consequence for illegal activity. 20 minutes after that, criminal elements become exceedingly active, and no one in the city can conceive of the idea that they should be stopped. So, another 50 minutes pass, full-scale looting begins, and by 2 hours after the initial containment, the local media begins musing on the events, unable to conceptualize what has changed that's led to the current situation. And so that I really actually like that for setting the stage for this effect, even though ultimately I don't think it was needed for the work, but it's okay. It worked despite that. We have an addendum that is an interview, less an interview, more of an event log after an engagement with an MTF raiding a facility, and they had the Spectre sort of join the fray, and he yells out to these enemies, criminals, evildoers, denizens of the night, your time has come, for now you face the specter. And he starts, going in and engaging 3 hostiles in hand-to-hand combat, and apparently dispatches all of them in record time. And the skip says, "Justice is served. The streets will no longer be plagued by these devils and their foul poisons." And so our agents thank him, says, we couldn't have done this without you. To which he replies, "Huh? Oh yeah, don't worry about it. Someone's got to help deal with these guys, you know what I'm saying?" So what's interesting, there's a couple points here where that line, the fancy script has gone away. So he's speaking more colloquially, and the info hazard as it affects the text is also gone. So again, the we ask him, "So when you aren't here, doing your thing, what do you do?" He goes, "Oh, watch TV, browse the internet, sometimes play some video games." Our agent says, "Video games? Aren't you like the embodiment of justice or something?" Skip says, "Yeah, and as the embodiment of justice, let me tell you, that new Spider-Man game, fucking good stuff. You played it?" "No, we don't really have much time for video games." Skip says, "That's a shame. Justice loves video games, you hear?" "I see. Well, thanks for your help, I guess." And I like this. It says SCP-4494 coughs, and the 94 of 4494 is in the fancy font, and then the fancy font resumes, and it says, "Worry not. Wherever darkness crawls, wherever injustice seeks to prevail, those who serve good will always have an ally in the Spectre." He spins, coat billowing dramatically. When the visual returns from the obscured cameras, the skip is gone. End transcript, end article. For being a Pulp Fiction piece, I dig it. I think this was it did what the topic sort of laid out, and did it in an amusing way. This is over plus 100 at this point, and I think that's well earned. The tone, everything about it is honestly pretty tight. I have no issues with any of that. And it was a well executed premise. So all things considered, this is a +1. This feels more fleshed out to me than the previous piece that Mortos managed to place with. But despite it, still really, really good. And what's interesting now is the Spectre is higher rated at this point than the winner at the time. It's always interesting seeing how these things go when you come back to him just a little bit later. I remember during the 2000 contest, 2000 was outstanding. 2998 led that for a long time, and sort of died at it let down at the last. And but yeah, that could have would have changed a number of things. I think in how the site actually has evolved. Little things like that make a difference. And in this case, the voting has shifted just a little bit in just the week or two that voting has been over. And this, if we were going by the current totals, would be the winner. But got runner-up honors, and still very good and a very easy +1 from me. Now, our winner for day 2, SCP-4513, titled "Pounded in the Butt with Moby Dick" by my IRS W-2 tax form. This was written by Rounderhouse, and we have an image of 2 plastic bottles that are filled with a white liquid, and it is captioned SCP-4513-B. We have an object class of safe, and procedures that indicate the skip is contained in a standard object storage locker in Site 19, and that is the entirety of it. The description is that the skip is a Brushmaster brand large drum wood chipper, and the gimmick with this thing, with this wood chipper, is you can take a piece of literary media of some form, put it in the wood chipper's hopper, and it will consume it. And rather than give you shredded paper, it produces a watery substance that resembles milk, and this substance changes the narrative structure of any literary media it is exposed to, and these alterations result in a text that more closely resembles the media that the milk was formed from, both in style and prose. So it is, you get pulp and you apply it to fiction, and there you go. So what we did is a test log that involved a filled IRS W-2 tax form provided by a researcher, used as a control for the different varieties of -B to be applied to. And what we have for the rest of the work is a variety of pieces of fiction that have had their scale, their scope changed to reflect more interest in tax forms. Our first example is Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and there are, this is all very flowery prose in the, in that style of Moby Dick, but it includes new entries that there's a lot of it. I don't really want to read this whole thing. And there's quite a few of them, but it involves little changes here and there of Captain Two form rather than Captain Ahab, and the single stroke of a quill, a weapon most desired but entrusted to a small few under the watchful gaze of the Internal Revenue Service. So we have a number of little changes to Moby Dick, and then we apply it also to Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, and it involves, in the year of our Lord 2018, I amassed a collective of 73,000 American dollars in change, my lord. That was in a high enough tax bracket to pierce the heavens. That is from W-2 form. So there's little things like that, and we end this with a reimagining of Helicopter Man Pounds Dinosaur Billionaire Ass by Dr. Chuck Tingle, and that is where we end this. I will not do this justice. Chuck Tingle, I think, actually has gone on he both has audiobooks and does podcasts and stuff. So, feel free to look those up. I'm not going to really get into this one, but it involved 37 pages of additional documentation that we couldn't even cover and keep it, age appropriate on the wiki. It's like, do you want me to go into this? I don't really want to go into this. I could go into this, but I'm not going to go into this. We end the article with Chuck Tingle, and this is at plus 110. I have to say, what we have is this sort of vessel to add these fictional reimaginings, but I'm never really hooked by it. I'm not really... It evokes nothing in me. I don't really... It's not that I feel good or I feel bad about the work, or I'm, really excited or disappointed. I really feel nothing at all about it. So that's hard for me to upvote when the results are thus. It doesn't do anything wrong. It just doesn't do anything for me. So it is a no vote for me. And that said, it is strictly on the basis of taste. In this case, it just doesn't do anything for me. Give it a read. I really didn't go over the meat of the article, which is the prose, but the prose, as I said, didn't do it for me. But do your own reading. As always, I recommend that, and see what you think about it. Now, moving on to day 3, the theme or the topic for day 3 was titled "So It Was All a Dream," and that was what the writers had to work with. Our runner-up for this is SCP-4269, titled "Fuck with the Lights Turned On" by Othello the Cat, and we have an image of a set of black panties with red trim around the edges and an object class of safe, and procedures that indicate that 4269 instances are to be contained in an anomalous item locker, and any instances are to be washed and disinfected thoroughly before and after any experimentation. They are not to be used for recreational reasons by any personnel. So the skip is the collective designation for several pairs of cognitohazardous underwear. I actually have a set of anomalous underwear myself, 1388. That was my first entry on the site. It's funny seeing things come full circle. The underwear, when worn, anybody that views that person wearing the underwear views them as the ideal standard of sexual attractiveness to them, and this effect extends to all senses, including touch, taste, and smell. And different people may see different things while viewing and interacting with a single instance of somebody wearing these underwear. And you have a list, an abridged list, it says, of -1 instances as viewed by Foundation personnel. We have one researcher reporting the instance looking like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wearing only an apron, and apparently the skip is capable of simulating realistic feeling clothing and additional body mass, as the -1 was 4 inches shorter than Dwayne Johnson and was not wearing any clothing beyond this pair of underwear. So it is, as cognitohazards go, this is fairly strong to manifest all of these additional things. So we have several of these experiments, and we find that it will not change the gender of the person wearing it, but will be, it doesn't have to be a specific person. It can be just a set of concepts that somebody finds attractive, and they don't necessarily need to change appearance if the subject already finds that person attractive. The instances do not have to be a human or humanoid, given that one researcher, Fiona Mariah, had the -1 manifest as a scaled lizard-like woman with clawed hands and feet and an elongated tail. And we have 5 of these, and a third, an incident below this, that one of our researchers had requested an instance of these underwear for experimentation purposes, but had not returned it for several days. We found personal testing on their own computer, all from this one researcher, and they had put the underwear on a dog and found that the instance looked like her ex-girlfriend, and then put it on a mannequin and had a different ex-girlfriend. And then things go a little off the deep end here. And we have the instance looking like SCP-035, the mask, on the body of an ex-girlfriend. And lastly, the instance looks like researcher Fiona Mariah, who was, also involved in this testing. And beyond testing, we conduct an investigation and find that she had kept these underwear for several days after concluding the tests, and placed it on the base of a lamp in her office, along with other pieces of lingerie and a sex toy. We have severely reprimanded this researcher, and Fiona Mariah has since requested to be transferred to a different Foundation site, and the request was granted. And we end the article there. Interesting little piece. I get it was all a dream. This is interesting. It starts out with this, sort of, jokey, funny, sexy thing, and turns into something, a bit more serious, and I could see this not landing with a lot of readers. I think this is compelling as far as it goes. I would almost, it's difficult. I think this does a good job towing the line, but just the same, I think maybe it's just to their credit. They've done a good job. I want to know more. I want to know what happened here. And we don't get that, unfortunately. But when I am left in a situation where I want more in a good way, that is, one of those situations I have to upvote it. This is really good as far as it went. I think if it keeps going and explored more of that, uncomfortable, you can call it sexual harassment, call it, whatever makes sense. It is, definite professional awkwardness, and it is something that a lot of people haven't tried. I can't really think of many cases at all where it's even been explored on the wiki. So on that basis, I'd like to see where this went. I'd like to see more of it, and that's as good a reason as any for me to give this a +1. Last but not least, our winner for day 3, we have a 001 proposal. This is not a seagull's proposal, and this is currently at +180, making it the highest rated of all of the articles in Jamcon. So the thought of trying to do a 001 proposal given 24 hours is pretty ridiculous. But they gave it a shot. It seems to have worked out okay. We have this ended up being a point of contention. When you load this page, you have the thing where there's text sort of appearing slowly on the page, and it's technical clearance required for 001, and a link you can click to open the work proper. We have an object class of Keter and procedures that indicate that if the sky begins changing color with no prior stimuli or indication, all Foundation sites are to go to alert level 7 immediately. Personnel at Site 5 and 6 are to enter alert level 8 and begin evaluating new methods of containing SCP-001. We've created Site 5 around Point Alpha. We have a procedure in effect to contain the -1, and a monitor containing document 032, as well as a speaker reading the document, are to be placed at least 5 meters away from -1. If it swells up to 2 meters or more in diameter, the speed of the narration is to increase. And this system has a direct cable link to the Foundation database at Site 6 and several redundant power generators to ensure the system stays operational at all times. That is the entirety of the procedures, and it's not really clear immediately what's going on with this, but what is clear is this thing is quite long. So you do have an opportunity, you assume, to go back and connect the dots on what's going on. So our description indicates that 001 is an ongoing ZK class reality failure scenario. It is being prevented from happening only through several procedures manipulating the sub-anomalies of it. The only known observable symptom is the sky becoming a different color. However, we believe that if it were to progress to the point where other symptoms began to manifest, that it would be irreversible. We describe -1 as a levitating sphere-like object contained within Point Alpha, which is a cave chamber located 5 kilometers south of the ruins of Babylon. The -1 visually resembles a perfectly smooth sphere with a texture similar to blurred television static. And that's an interesting line. A texture similar to blurred TV static. I don't know if that's a synesthesia thing or what, but I'm having a hard time really visualizing that. The next thing here is pretty cool. It says measurement instruments indicate SCP-001-1 is currently blank meters in diameter. The blank is a number, and the number keeps changing about every second. It goes, like, for example, right now, 1.55, 1.20, 0.84, 0.55, 0.84, 0.78, and it just keeps changing, and it's been changing for the entirety of the time that I have been reading so far. It is not just a transparent GIF. It is text that is being manipulated through presumably JavaScript or maybe some fancy CSS on the fly, actually manipulating the text as you read. So that's pretty cool. We go on to say that solids and liquids that pass within the bounds of the -1 are replaced entirely with argon gas, giving the illusion of disappearing. We then describe -2 as an entity capable of being seen from within Point Alpha, and its manifestations are random. Witnesses report seeing it past the walls of the cave, and from eyewitness descriptions, it is humanoid in shape and large in stature, and is only visible when looking through -1. -2 takes the position of lying against the wall, and that's an interesting sentence. I'm not quite sure what that means. -2 takes the position of lying against the wall. That feels clunky. I'm not quite sure what it's trying to say. It is most often seen with a neutral expression. The expression will occasionally change to discomfort or bliss. We've determined through historical precedent that entertaining -2 through -1 will prevent the SCP, the reality failure, from completing. We have a history log indicating that this goes back to prehistory and Babylonian scripts, indicating that -1 was routinely patrolled by a group of sages known as the Order of White and Black, who refused passage to anyone who could not read or write. This continues for a while, describing this, prehistoric Zoroastrian, ancient Sumerian, ancient Greek. We have a foundation known as the Cronus Guard, who were given Greek epics to read, and this institution lasted through multiple empires and even the formation of an Islamic caliphate. And this guard was replaced with an Islamic equivalent titled the Society for the Containment of the Babel Demon. And this group was presumably the predecessor to ORIA, and it actually performed early research on this 001, and we have a log of literature read to -2 and the result, and they refer to -2 as demon and -1 as orb. So what happens is that we'll read things to it, and it will squirm or thrash about, or perhaps have no reaction at all. But they attempted reading nothing to it for 10 days. The orb expanded, the demon thrashed, and the sky above the camp began turning dark red until it was read to again. And as they keep reading the Quran to it, they note that it is no longer effective. So they keep having to provide it new literature to prevent further phenomena from occurring. And it does go on to say this society was eventually absorbed into ORIA, the Office for the Reclamation of Islamic Artifacts, who assumed containment duties of this 001. So we go to an incident log that at some point in the past, the ORIA were reading a book per normal containment procedures. -2 was observed to rapidly thrash while screaming, and -1 swelled from 50 centimeters to 3.2 meters in diameter, and 001 began to worsen. The sky worldwide turned a black and white color similar to the texture of -1. Reality-bending phenomena began worldwide, causing deformed geography, the manifestation of dangerous anomalous objects, and several natural disasters. And this event was ended after reading -1 an undisclosed number of as-yet unread books, which caused -2 to stop thrashing, and 001 restored to its original point, but the damage caused was sufficient enough to prompt an activation of SCP-2000. So that is, our get-out-of-jail-free card, if you will. And what we have next is a thing that says to input level 5 001 credentials, and it is a Deivite vocalization recorded by ORIA instruments within this point alpha, and we have some rough translations, and it has it more or less says and it's hard to say who is saying what, and all of that said, so this is a bit confusing to read. The gist of it is it has passed some time. And we have this word Gaera, Gaera, that comes up a few times, and it says, "It used to be fun. It is time to leave. You cannot stay yourself forever. The Gaera has passed. You must awaken. No, you have re-entered slumber for too long. Wake up. King, it is time for you to wake up. It is fun to be in the Gaera, but you cannot be there forever. It is entertaining, but you must wake up. Wake up, we miss you." And in several instances here, they have multiple words because we consider them to be sort of incomplete translations. A word could mean multiple things. I'm going with the most readable iteration of the bunch. So we have addenda below this that have to do with continued containment procedures that we found that over time the requirements to contain 001 have become really draconic. We can't reread books without it beginning to thrash, and we're beginning to run out of high-quality literature to give it, and we need a more long-term reliable solution for containment. So SCP-001's file has been opened up to all personnel with Level 2 clearance, and anybody can submit an idea. So the initial proposal is to use AI constructs to automatically generate new stories for -2, and this was approved. And our AI, which is a rather familiar, rather long acronym, and I'll leave it at that, it was able to generate 10,000 volumes of stories imitating Greek literature, but when the first was read, it began thrashing beyond acceptable measures until it was read approved reading. So that didn't work. We suggest hiring a full team of authors to create literature for it, and that's denied. That has really not worked in the past. We could read main list documentation for a black boxed SCP to -1, and this is denied because it could be a possible information leak. The same proposal is approved later as -2 has breached containment, and these measures are now approved. -2 is observed to stop thrashing and stay completely still, seemingly smiling. In addition, this particular SCP was able to be read for 14 consecutive readings before -2 resumed normal activity. So now our proposal is to regularly read main list documentation for -1. That's approved. We're getting somewhere here. We are replacing the 001 file with several 001 proposals with much more grand implications than normal SCP files. The status is approved, and the result is that by only occasionally reading 001 files, -2 is observed to be more calm on average. The previously observed actions of retaliation do not seem to apply here. And we propose to expand the SCP series beyond 999 and declassify several unnumbered SCP objects into these slots. This is approved. See where we're going here? And the proposal says, given the variation of the current 2,957 SCP main list files, -1 is to be read a random arrangement of these files in repeat, and this strategy succeeded for approximately 3 years, allowing for several repeats. However, in 2022, -2 began thrashing rapidly, requiring newer documentation to sedate. So we have a proposal to expand the series beyond 4999 and declassify several unnumbered SCP objects into these slots. And the status is denied, the reason being -1 has required progressively more SCP main list articles for containment, even to the point of fabrication of some anomalous entities. So we propose rewriting several older main list files to be more exaggerated and narrative-like. I love ambitious 001s that try to explain the wiki. This is doing more than that. So this proposal is tentatively approved, and a note that says, deliberately exaggerating our files for the purpose of this entity is crossing some lines, but for now it will have to do. However, we need a better way. I'm calling a committee. We need to put a stop to this. So our last line here is proposal, creation of a file describing 001 that uses recursion to effectively be never-ending. Psychoanalysis related to -2's apparent enjoyment of works implies a slight ego and bias towards works about itself, and past strategies with this idea have worked for long periods of time. File is to be archived as a technical file. This is approved. The result is that procedure 001-entry is implemented. Data is expunged. Below this is a link that says input level 5 technical clearance. If you click it, there's a little pause, and you are taken to a new iteration of everything we've just read. End article. I want to point out, this is a 001 proposal that is truly ambitious in scope and explains a couple of things in a blend of old and new ways, and this was done with 24 hours notice, more or less. You technically had 48, but I don't think this used all 48, and I don't think it had time to get as highly rated as it did to actually win the thing. So what I think is going on here is that -2, the big bad of the Deivite lore, and the -2 with the ability to potentially end the world is us. That we are going in and changing things to sate, to keep the world from ending. Now, this we have done, 001 is us previously. S. Andrew Swan, his proposal did that same sort of thing, but it didn't do it in this way. This is, I'm really impressed. I think this is a totally worthy 001 proposal under normal circumstances when you consider that it was done during Jamcon. It almost defies belief, and it defies that such a thing could be conceived and executed in just 24, 48 hours. So this is currently at plus 181. It has absolutely skyrocketed. I think that is this is really good. This is one of the better 001s I've seen in a while. It tries to do a few things. I think it does everything really very well. And I think that's a very worthy winner. And I get the connection, it was all a dream. We are, it's the sort of self-reflection on us and on the wiki as a whole. So yeah, no, worthy winner. And with that, we're going to call this, end of the line for this Jamcon recap. I'm glad to end with this one. The works overall for me were a little up and down. That's not to say that maybe it's not the works, maybe it's me. It's been a heck of a last few days, but despite it, I was significantly impressed with a few of these, and I encourage you to go back and read not just these, but there were plenty that I haven't talked about. There were over 100 entries that survived Jamcon. So in 6 days, we had over 100 entries. Let that sink in. That is, people in various places have, indicated, the wiki's going downhill, the wiki's dying. How many places do go up 50%, year over year, contest over contest for participation and consider them to be dead or dying? I don't know of any. This was a tremendous showing. All of you that did submit pieces and have them survive and got upvoted, I think this was a really strong showing for all of us, for the wiki, for the writers, and thank you. This is what we were hoping to see, a lot of excitement and a lot of contributions, and we got a lot of both. So the recap show will be Friday as usual. So until then, keep reading, keep writing. I'll see you in a couple days.